Tell you something. The Jews are chosen. We, the Jewish people, are chosen.
Are you sure?
I know. A lot of people get upset when I say that. It's in the Torah. I didn't make this up. If I made it up, you think I would be podcasting right now? If I was this brilliant to be the one that said the Jews are chosen, you think I would be podcasting right now? I'd be sitting, owning buildings somewhere. It's in the Torah. The Jews are the chosen people. I didn't make it up. There's plenty of other people, namely Hashem, that you could take it up with. The Jews are chosen, but we're not perfect. No one ever said the Jews are perfect. Most importantly, the Jews never said that we are perfect. Why we are held to unattainable standards of perfection more than any other race, religion, in the history of race religions is beyond me. We're chosen, but we're not perfect. We'll be the first to tell you, we ain't perfect. Israel ain't perfect. And we never said we were, and Israel never said it was.
I guess you could propose a DNA test for everybody who comes here, everybody who lives here.
Abram's descendants are the ones who have the right to have this land, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Why don't we do genetic testing on everybody in the land and find out who Abram's descendants are? It's really simple. We've cracked the human genome. We can do that. Why don't we do that? Would you be against doing that?
I have no idea what that would prove. I mean,
Really?
maybe it would be.
What do you mean? It would prove who Abram's descendants are and who has a right to live here and who doesn't, according to the theology that you yourself just explained.
So, some American Jews are actually taking DNA tests and realizing why DNA testing is illegal in Israel. Guys, I can subscribe, but look at this.
And if you do obtain it, it's illegal to show it and or talk about it. Ladies and gentlemen, my DNA. Now, I bet you thought it was going to be a lot crazier than that, right? Now, you might ask yourself, why is it illegal to obtain this in the state of Israel? Because it proves through your DNA that Jews around the world have no ancestral ties to the land of Israel.
I guess you could propose a DNA test for everybody who comes here, everybody who lives here.
Abram's descendants are the ones who have the right to have this land, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Why don't we do genetic testing on everybody in the land and find out who Abram's descendants are? It's really simple. We've cracked the human genome. We can do that. Why don't we do that? Would you be against doing that?
I have no idea what that would prove. I mean,
Really?
maybe it would be.
What do you mean? It would prove who Abram's descendants are and who has a right to live here and who doesn't, according to the theology that you yourself just explained.
Of course you would deny taking a DNA test, because if the test comes back that you are not a Jew, then everything falls apart, huh? You want to use the religion as a weapon to say that you were promised this land by God, but you're scared of a DNA. Terrified of it. Because a lot of them are actually Eastern European and not Jews at all. Not at all. Matter of fact, that's what's so funny about being an anti-Semite, is that they call certain Arabs anti-Semitic. Arabs are Semites. How can they be anti-Semitic? Do they hate themselves? They are Semites. So it's just funny how they want that to just apply to them. But they're the ones running away from the DNA test, because a lot of them are Eastern European. Just call it what it is. Okay? It is proof. It's not like I'm making it up. Here it is. Now people are going to social media and showing you what their DNA tests are. I didn't make it up. Don't be mad at me.
I have a question here. Does having a Jewish DNA make you a Jewish? This is a question, because so many Americans, they are showing their DNA test that they are Jewish.
Ashkenazi Jews are just Europeans. That's a lie. Anyone who's ethnically Jewish traces back to Israel. After Rome took over the Second Temple, a lot of Jews were exiled or enslaved. That's how Ashkenazi Jews ended up in Europe. The average Ashkenazi has 50% Middle Eastern DNA. We are 100% Jewish in our culture, ethnicity, language. During the Holocaust, they did not see us as Europeans. They saw us as Jews. They saw us as foreigners. They wanted us out of there. We are not European. Even though a lot of Jews left Israel, there was always a presence of Jews in Israel throughout history. Always. And there always will be. The Holocaust tried to erase us, but we're still here, and we always will be, and Israel will always be ours.
Some are very happy. Or maybe they want to be like Jesus. You know, Jesus is a Jewish. They want to be like the Son of God. Jesus is a Jewish. Some are feeling so happy. There's a lady here. This is what she's saying. You're getting me? This is what she's saying. Jewish woman find her DNA results. She's very, very happy. Say that this is very amazing. Now she knows where she comes from. Do you want to be a Jewish? Are you black and you want to be a Jewish? Are you from Pakistan and you want to be a Jewish? Just do a DNA test. You'll find out.
8 years ago, I did a DNA test because I was curious what my DNA was. Now, my mom is Jewish, my dad is not. And on the Jewish side of my family, every single person ever has married someone Jewish until my mom. So I knew on my mom's side, it was going to be something like 50% Jewish. I knew that was going to be for a fact. My dad's side, I wasn't really sure what it was going to be because my dad's family has been in America since like the 1600s. So I got my results back. And obviously it was something like 50% Ashkenazi Jewish, but my dad's results were something like 30% French and German, 20% British and Irish, and then a bunch of other random stuff. That was 8 years ago. I just got an email that my results have been updated. And I was like, what? I haven't checked my DNA results in a long time. So I just logged in and you're not going to believe this. Before I show you these results, I just need to share for anyone that doesn't know, I lived in England for 7 years by myself. I moved there for university. I ended up staying because I loved it. I have no family in England. I just always had this calling, like I needed to go to England. I didn't know anyone there. I ended up making the most amazing friends and people that became like family to me. But yeah, this is my updated result. Okay, so obviously we have the almost 50% Ashkenazi Jewish, but hold on, 45% English? 45% English? Also gotta love the 2% Scottish. You're telling me I lived in England for 7 years and I didn't know I was nearly half English? I was on either student visas or work visas my entire time there. I feel like there's a passport in there somewhere. I feel like I can try to finesse some, I know they're no longer part of the EU, but some sort of British blue passport.
You didn't know the Israelis are imposters? Watch this.
Most Jewish people have no Palestinian DNA in them.
Semitic denotes people who come from the Semitic region. The Semitic region is the Arab, the Holy Land, and those areas there. And the Semitic languages are Arabic and Hebrew. The people who call themselves Jews but are not, as Jesus said, they did not speak Hebrew. They spoke Yiddish. They have no blood ties to the Holy Land. That is why they've outlawed DNA testing in Israel. They actually come from Eastern Europe and Khazaria and that region out there, and they converted to Judaism many centuries ago.
Let's go inside the book, Who is Esau Edom by Charles Weisman. This is page 8. We thus find that in the years just before the time of Christ, Judea was controlled by an Edomite faction who usurped the Judite name, land, and heritage. Historically, the Edomites became known as Jews, a term derived from Judea, which was derived from the name Judah, being the royal line of Israel, though they were never of Judah or Israel. Yep. Those are fakes. Revelation chapter 2, verse 9, Revelation chapter 3, verse 9. They are the synagogue of Satan.
This feels like Christmas morning. I got a 23andMe ancestry and health kit. I think that I kind of want to start with the ancestry side. And it says ancestry composition. I'm 49.9% Ashkenazi Jewish. That's not a huge surprise to me at all, since my mom's side of the family is completely Jewish. My dad's side is not Jewish though. So let's go to there. Let's see what's going on. This is like, I feel really like on the spot. Okay, So I'm 100% European, which again is not a huge surprise to me, but it's just funny seeing it like that. I'm 49% Ashkenazi Jew, totally. British and Irish and German and French, a little bit Scandinavian, Northeastern European. Yeah, it's not super exciting, but I kind of know all of that information. I didn't realize how much of my family was from Germany though, so that's interesting. So let's see if I can get more information on this. It's funny, like I know where like my relatives and stuff came from, but it's kind of fun to see it broken down like this. Yeah, totally not surprising having the British and Irish be pretty strong. The German is though, so I wonder who came from Germany. I wonder if it has to do with the Ashkenazi Jewish part of my family. No really Scandinavian, no Italian. Wow. Okay. It's pretty vague. It doesn't give you which it makes sense, but there's nothing really random in there. There's a tiny bit of East Asian and Native American, like the slightest. The first thing that they're telling me to do is do the late onset Alzheimer's disease. I do have some dementia in my family, so I wouldn't be super surprised if this was positive, but my heart's racing a little bit. I don't know. So I don't have the however you say that. So there's zero variants detected, which is, I guess, a positive thing. Cool. So Parkinson's disease. Let's open that guy up. I know that's like a very, so I have 0 variants detected. So age-related macular degeneration, a variant detected, not likely at increased risk. I'm not totally sure what that totally means, but AMD, we're familiar with that condition, but we'll see. I'll do more research on this. Have a slightly increased risk of celiac disease, which I've actually been tested by, I've gotten blood work and stuff done for celiac disease. And I definitely gluten is harder for me to digest, but yeah, interesting.
Does having Jewish DNA determine your Jewish status? Great question. The answer is your Judaism is determined by your mother. If your mom's Jewish, you're Jewish according to traditional Judaism. Now, you could have a very high count of Jewish DNA, and that's awesome. That means you're connected to the Jewish people, but it doesn't necessarily mean you're Jewish. Don't forget, there are people that convert to Judaism and they have 0 DNA and they're 100% Jewish.
The Jewish people make up 0.02% of the world's population. So we're a minority in every country in the world, except Israel. Yet, we happen to be a majority in most of the professions. In my law school, 30-40% of my class was Jewish, and I went to a Catholic school. 22% of Nobel Prize winners in history have been Jewish. In science and math, I believe that number goes up to 26%. If you open up our Torah, if you open up our holy book that was given to Moses from God at Sinai, that book says that Jewish people will be a light unto the nations. Jewish people contribute to society in all beneficial ways. We are the chosen people, and we bring light to the world through our contributions, through our values, through our belief system. Those people who kick us out of these countries and who discriminate against Jewish people, they can't stand the light. They love to live in the dark. The light is blinding to them. But the light is there for all those who choose to accept it.
In America today, you see a very large movement of African Americans who say that they're the real chosen people, that they're the children of Israel, they're the Judeans. So what are they just trying to create an identity for themselves because they were slaves, or is there really something here? And the answer is most likely there is something there. And most likely maybe that they were the original Israelites, and maybe that the Jewish people today who are white, Caucasian people came in a little bit later on. We know that some of the greatest sages of the transmission of the Torah were converts. Africa has perhaps hundreds of millions of people with this identity right now of being from the people of Israel. Does that mean they were from the 10 tribes? Likely not. We were taught by the historians and within our own traditions that when the Romans conquered Judea, a few hundred years after that the tribes of Israel went into exile, perhaps millions of Judeans were sold into slavery. Into Africa, into Rome, deep into Africa. And if you look now you're seeing people who are most likely the descendants of those slaves who kept true. I like to bring up a few specific examples because they're going to be game changers. One of them wrote letters to Israel when it became a state. And they said, we're Israelites out in Africa. You know, everyone laughed at them and they said, African Israelites, these people are just trying to jump on the first world country bandwagon. They're living in a third world country, they got nothing. We're coming to Israel, we got innovation, technology. So they're trying to get on this train because there's such a thing called the right of return. All descendants of the Jewish people from around the world are able to move to Israel. So they said we are also. And everyone kind of laughed at them, like I said. And a few people took it serious and went out there and started studying them, learned about their culture. And a professor from Duke University went out there and did DNA testing on them. And he showed not only do they share Semitic genes from people who were in Yemen and back to the Middle East, these gentlemen, a large percent of them, have the Y chromosome to be Kohanim, to be priests. Now, if anyone who doesn't know, a priest is a specific family clan of the nation of Israel who come from Aaron, the brother of Moses, who was the first priest. And anyone descended from Aaron has the status title priest. And we found that these men in this village in South Africa called Lemba, L-E-M-B-A, carry this genetic marker to let us know that they share the same as from the Sephardic and the Ashkenaz and the population of the people in Israel today. They share the same exact DNA marker. That's mind-blowing. So everyone kind of got humbled a little bit who laughed at them and said, now what? Now what do we do about this? This could have tremendous implications. Another area in Africa you have something big happening is in Nigeria. You have the Igbo people, or Igbo, pronounced either way. There's 40 million of them, also Christians, like I spoke about before, how that could happen to the children of Israel very easily. But also a lot of them are now coming out and converting back or adopting the rules of the Torah without all the paganism that they've been practicing for hundreds of years. There's been books written about it from scholars in Nigeria, from scholars from the Jewish people. And where it gets interesting is, in America, there was a slave trade. And a lot of the slaves, a very high percentage of them, came from Western Nigerian ports. And in America today, you see a very large movement of African Americans who say that they're the real chosen people, that they're the children of Israel, they're the Judeans. You know, so what are they just trying to create an identity for themselves because they were slaves, or is there really something here? And the answer is, most likely there is something there. And most likely, maybe that they were the original Israelites, and maybe that the Jewish people today who are white, Caucasian people came in a little bit later on. We know that some of the greatest sages of the transmission of the Torah were converts from Rome. You have a man named Onkelos who wrote a commentary on the Torah, unprecedented, that we still learn today. He was a convert. Some of the largest pillars on the transmission today were Roman converts. So here we are, we're Caucasian Jewish people, and now you have people in Africa saying that they're the real people of Israel. It can't be ruled out at all. We know they were sold into slavery. We know now that they're fulfilling prophecies by saying, we're coming back, we want to rejoin the nation.
I'm about to show you something extremely controversial. It's even illegal in the state of Israel to obtain this. And if you do obtain it, it's illegal to show it and or talk about it. Ladies and gentlemen, my DNA. Now, I bet you thought it was going to be a lot crazier than that, right? Now, you might ask yourself, why is it illegal to obtain this in the state of Israel? Because it proves through your DNA that Jews around the world have no ancestral ties to the land of Israel. Because it proves through your DNA that Jews around the world have no ancestral ties The land of Israel.
We Jews have been in the land of Israel since the times of biblical Joshua.
Who is we? No, really, who is we? You live in Israel, so I don't expect you to be able to provide genetic or ancestral receipts for your claims about us Jews, because those kinds of receipts are illegal in Israel without a court order and other special permissions. The Jerusalem Post explains such a thing cannot exist as kits sold directly to the public, going on to say that they have possible effects on subjects and their families. Furthermore, the national implications of these tests could hold or affect, nice grammar Jerusalem Post, could hold or affect with Israel being a government-recognized Jewish state. Don't you just love when they say the quiet parts out loud? But since they won't let you get receipts for us Jews, I brought my own. Wow. So I, an Ashkenazi, have no genetic or ancestral ties to the region of historic Palestine. I, an Ashkenazi, have no genetic or ancestral ties to the region of historic Palestine. And yet Israel still claims it's my homeland, which I could move to and become a citizen of under the ironically named Law of Return.
Have you heard of the Kuzavim?
Yeah, that's us. That's me, actually.
Okay, so what is your... this is a question that comes from outside of Israel. What is your opinion about the theory that Ashkenazim came from Kuzavim?
It seems relevant. It's quite obvious that white Jewish people, Ashkenazim from Europe, are not genetically, as much as I can tell, I'm not an expert, but they don't look the same like Arab Jews, people that came from Arab countries, and Ethiopians. I don't think there's there may be some genetic relations, but there's a lot of genetic differences. And any theory that says that we're not genetically come from the same ancestors makes sense to me.
This feels like Christmas morning. I got a 23andMe ancestry and health kit. I think that I kind of want to start with the ancestry side. And it says ancestry composition. I'm 49.9% Ashkenazi Jewish. That's not a huge surprise to me at all, since my mom's side of the family is completely Jewish. My dad's side is not Jewish though. So let's go to there. Let's see what's going on. This is like, I feel really like on the spot. Okay, so I'm 100% European, which again is not a huge surprise to me, but it's just funny seeing it like that. I'm 49% Ashkenazi Jew, totally. British and Irish and German and French, a little bit Scandinavian, Northeastern European. Yeah, it's not super exciting, but I kind of know all of that information. I didn't realize how much of my family was from Germany though, so that's interesting. So let's see if I can get more information on this. It's funny, like I know where like my relatives and stuff came from, but it's kind of fun to see it broken down like this. Yeah, totally not surprising having the British and Irish be pretty strong. The German is though, so I wonder who came from Germany. I wonder if it has to do with the Ashkenazi Jewish part of my family. No really Scandinavian, no Italian. Wow. Okay. It's pretty vague. It doesn't give you which it makes sense, but there's nothing really random in there. There's a tiny bit of East Asian and Native American, like the slightest. The first thing that they're telling me to do is do the late onset Alzheimer's disease. I do have some dementia in my family, so I wouldn't be super surprised if this was positive, but my heart's racing a little bit. I don't know. So I don't have the however you say that. So there's zero variants detected, which is, I guess, a positive thing. Cool. So Parkinson's disease. Let's open that guy up. I know that's like a very, so I have 0 variants detected. So age-related macular degeneration. A variant detected, not likely at increased risk. I'm not totally sure what that totally means, but AMD, we're familiar with that condition, but We'll see. I'll do more research on this. Have a slightly increased risk of celiac disease, which I've actually been tested by, like, I've gotten blood work and stuff done for celiac disease. And I definitely, gluten is harder for me to digest, but yeah, interesting.
Jews shouldn't care about DNA tests, and here's why. There are two ways to determine if someone is Jewish, whether his mother is Jewish or he converted to Judaism. If someone converted to Judaism, he essentially gets a new soul, a soul of a Jewish person. According to our tradition, all the souls of the converts were with us at Mount Sinai. So even if you converted yesterday, now you're 100% Jewish. A famous example is Ruth the Moabite, the great-grandmother of King David. In Judaism, national identity is according to the mother and tribal identity is according to the father. That's why Abraham makes sure that Isaac gets married with a Hebrew woman from Haran. That's why Jacob goes all the way to Haran to get married with Rachel and Leah. That's why Rebecca is so upset with Esau for getting married with local women. There is Deuteronomy 7, which is too long for now. Your father will determine your tribal identity, a Levi or a Judah, Ashkenazi or Sephardic. Follow for more.
Wait until white people find out that the person that they pray to and call their savior and think that he's coming back. Wait until they find out that he was actually a person. Just remember, anytime you see the elites or whatever you want to call them trying to make us hate a specific person or thing, it's really just because that's the most powerful thing. They do everything in their power to make us hate black people. That's because these people are so powerful. These people have been here forever. White people did not pop up until about 5,000 years ago. Now, there's going to be quite a few of white people that are going to be mad at this because y'all think everything is about you, but I'm here to tell you that it's not, and it never was. Think about it. I don't know where the fuck white people came from, to be honest, but we are not meant to be in the sun. Like black people are from Earth. They have been here a long ass time, bro. The sun loves them. The sun hates white people, okay? I'm just being honest. Part of that has to do with wearing sunscreen and sunglasses, but that's for a whole nother video. All of those ancient people from ancient Kemet, ancient Egypt, those were... Ever notice how the nose are always chopped off on those ancient structures? That's because they don't want us to know the truth. I'm not going to say too much about this photo because I don't want my video to get taken down again. But I mean, y'all see what's going on. A lot of things we've just been lied to, y'all. Pretty much everything is the opposite of what you think it is. There's a reason they want to divide black people. It's because black people are the most connected. They are very, very, very talented at singing, dancing, athletics, you name it. So many things are designed to limit them. I think that black women are the most powerful people on the planet because the number two things that the elites, whatever you want to call them, that they hate the most is women and black people. So there you have it, black women. Those are the people that we need to be listening to. Those are the leaders of the new earth. And I'm not saying other women aren't powerful, but there's just something about an enlightened black woman who is embodying her gifts that is just so powerful, y'all.
Israel's not a perfect country, but for whatever reason, the obsession about where half the world's Jews live, which happens to be a small outpost of freedom and liberty with lots of problems, surrounded by literally 1 billion Muslims, that this is our number one focus geopolitically, that people use the word genocide, and you won't use the word genocide when Jews are killed, but you do use the word genocide when Palestinians are killed, shows the moral confusion on this topic.
Watch how the Palestinian myth collapses in real time.
I ordered a 23andMe DNA test. I was extremely shocked when I opened my results. It said that I was 100% Lebanese and Jordanian.
This woman, who proudly calls herself Palestinian, takes a DNA test and discovers she's 100% Lebanese and Jordanian. Instead of accepting the truth, she invents a conspiracy that 23andMe is erasing Palestinian identity. Well, let me tell you something. No, your DNA is simply confirming what history already proves. There is no ancient Palestinian ethnicity. There never was. Before 1960s, before Arafat, everyone in the region, including Jews, was called Palestinian as a geographic label, not an ethnicity, not a nation, not a people with unique genetic markers. The Palestinian identity was manufactured for political power and to keep the conflict alive. That's why her results show Jordan and Lebanon, because that's where the majority of people who now claim their identity actually came from. But instead of learning history, she blames the DNA test, as if the world's plotting to erase something that never existed in the first place. Meanwhile, my own DNA as a Jewish Israeli woman from Judea shows exactly what it should. Jewish ethnic markers, Levantine roots, a migration path that my ancestors through centuries of exile, because Judaism isn't just a religion, it's an ethnic group with clear genetic marks. If you want the real evidence, the genetic data, the documents, who invented Palestinian narrative, why it was created, and how the West fell for it, read the Palestinian myth. Facts don't lie, people do.
Being 3% Jewish does not make you Jewish. Let's talk about it. According to the halakhic Jewish law, you are considered Jewish if you are born to a Jewish mother or you do a formal conversion. However, according to the Messianic perspective, you are Jewish if you are born to a Jewish mom or a Jewish dad. There are different Messianic views on this in the community, but I do agree with that view. You are also generally accepted by the Messianic community as being Jewish if you have a Jewish grandparent, especially if you're embracing your Jewish heritage. Now, let's say you take a DNA test that says you're 1 or 3% Jewish. Stop right there. There is an organization in the Messianic community called First Fruits of Zion, and I definitely affirm most of what they say about this. They believe that being Jewish is a covenantal and communal identity, not just biological. Having a low DNA percentage does not obligate you to the Torah the same way it does to a halachic Jew. I would actually say it's spiritually and relationally dangerous if you have a low DNA percentage and you just start acting like you're a Jew. Why do I say that? The first reason is it really just blurs the line between Jews and Gentiles. Also, in doing that, you're unintentionally appropriating Jewish identity, which in turn is dishonoring to the Jewish people, and it diminishes the weight of the Jewish calling. It can also lead to confusion and division between Jews and Christians. It can also create a false spiritual obligation that could put a spiritual burden on you that you were never meant to carry. Being involved in the Messianic community since birth, I have definitely experienced this before where I tell someone that I'm Jewish at my Messianic congregation and they're like, oh, I just took a DNA test and I'm 3% Jewish too. Now, I think that's so historically cool and accurate, but I would not say that you are Jewish. It also makes me think that you think that being a Gentile is a second-class citizen, which is not true. Like we talked about yesterday, the Gentiles were grafted in and you have the same access to God as I do. Being a Gentile with 3% Jewish is really cool, but it doesn't mean that you are an ethnic Jew. So there is beauty in distinction. Jews and Gentiles are supposed to be one in Messiah. We're supposed to get along together, have harmony together, and one group shouldn't feel like they're better than the other group, because that's not how God intended it to be. So that's all I want to say about that issue. And let me know if you have any questions, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.
You're right. The blood doesn't lie, which is why Jewish DNA matches directly up with ancient Judeans, as well as the fact that we're indigenous to the land. But you mentioned Canaanites. Have you met one lately? They don't exist, but Jews do. Hebrew, Shabbat, Jerusalem, Zion, artifacts, archaeology, the receipts, and everything to back up what we say, rather than your shit. Try harder, do better. I'm Yishel Chayed. God bless America.
Not only through his own Cherokee ancestry discovered his own Jewish roots, but he's also leading the charge in the DNA discoveries of the ancient roots of the Cherokee and other Native American communities.
In recent years, a set of Cherokee DNA results surfaced that no one was supposed to see.
The light that the right is taking in the Cherokee Nation, saying this is not right, you shouldn't have done this, is about tribal affiliation. It's nothing to do with the blood test.
The data looked ordinary at first, but when scientists traced the markers, they uncovered something that defied every accepted theory of American origins.
And the first words of it is, when we came from beyond the great waters. And it was the story of the Cherokee migration across the Pacific Ocean.
What they found in Cherokee bloodlines did not just rewrite history. It threatened to expose something the nation itself was built to forget.
Company DNA Consultants has also shown evidence of Cherokee having DNA ties to the ancient Phoenician and Minoan sea peoples.
The discovery was real, the records were sealed, and what remains is America's darkest secret. The myth America was built on. In the early 19th century, the American government and its academic institutions created a version of prehistory that would serve their political goals. They needed a story that placed indigenous people as recent arrivals rather than ancient civilizations. This story began to take shape through anthropology, a young science that depended heavily on government funding. By the mid-1800s, prominent American scholars began promoting the idea that all native peoples came from a small group of hunters who crossed a frozen land bridge between Siberia and Alaska about 15,000 years ago. This land bridge theory was presented as scientific fact even though it was based on very limited evidence. It explained the presence of Native Americans in a way that fit neatly into the belief that the Americas were once empty lands waiting for progress to arrive. The theory grew in popularity because it aligned perfectly with the politics of the time.
Another Cherokee Nation member is accusing Warren of playing politics.
During the era of manifest destiny, American leaders claimed that the nation had a divine right to expand across the continent. The land bridge theory supported this by suggesting that Native Americans were not the first people to inhabit the land, but rather migrants themselves. If they had once traveled from another continent, then European settlers could be seen as doing the same. The difference, according to this logic, was that Europeans brought civilization, while the native peoples had remained primitive. This idea turned conquest into rediscovery. The Smithsonian Institution, founded in 1846, became one of the most powerful voices promoting this narrative.
Is what I would call the building of a whole new world.
Many of its early directors and field researchers were tied to government agencies that oversaw expansion into native territories. Their archaeological work was not just about science. It was also a political project. Excavations across the Midwest were often interpreted to fit the new theory, rather than test it, ensuring that native peoples were portrayed as late arrivals. Reports often concluded that a lost race had built these structures and that modern Native Americans had replaced them later. This interpretation served two purposes. It denied indigenous people a deep connection to the land and justified removing them from it. Some scholars and field observers challenged this view. They noticed that mound-building practices, pottery styles, and oral histories linked living tribes like the Cherokee and Creek directly to those ancient sites.
And what's been incredibly eye-opening are the countless Cherokee alive today discovering Sephardic Jewish ancestry, including yourself. Explain that.
Their findings suggested that these civilizations had developed locally over thousands of years. However, their voices were quickly marginalized. Academic journals refused to publish work that contradicted the official line. Researchers who persisted were accused of poor methodology or even fraud. Funding was withdrawn, and their field notes were often left unpublished. The result was an academic silence that lasted generations. By the early 20th century, the land bridge theory had moved from hypothesis to dogma. Textbooks in public schools described it as proven truth. Children learned that Native Americans were nomadic hunters who had wandered into a new continent and slowly formed small tribes. This version of history stripped away any recognition of large, complex societies that might have existed before European arrival. It also concealed evidence of advanced agriculture, trade networks, and linguistic diversity that pointed to a much older and richer past. The myth turned an entire continent's history into a single migration story. For the Cherokee, this imposed narrative erased their deeper origins. Their language, ceremonies, and architectural traditions pointed to a cultural development far older than 15,000 years, yet they were categorized within the same framework as every other tribe. The official timeline left no room for their own records, which spoke of ancestors who came from the East, long before written history. By the middle of the 20th century, American identity and native history had been reshaped by a convenient lie. The land bridge story gave the United States a moral cover for its expansion, while pushing indigenous civilizations into the shadows of prehistory. But while this theory shaped the nation's self-image, new discoveries in the Appalachian soil and long-ignored Cherokee oral traditions began to surface. What they revealed did not fit the official narrative, and no historian could fully explain it.
This is actually pretty complicated. If your DNA shows that you are 100% Ashkenazi or Sephardic, that doesn't necessarily mean you're Jewish. If your DNA shows 0 Ashkenazi or Sephardic, you could be 100% Jewish. If you take a DNA test and it shows Jewish DNA, that only means that you have Jewish ancestry. That doesn't make you a Jew. However, if your DNA does show Jewish ancestry, you're going to look to Jewish communities for your family tree. Within Orthodox Judaism, to be Jewish, your mother had to have been Jewish or you had to have converted. Now, that's only within the Orthodox community. There are other types of Judaism out there that have different rules about who is Jewish and who is not Jewish. So basically, your DNA does not determine whether or not you are Jewish.
Thank you for watching Great Minds Blacks.